The Abandoned House, a Haunted Exploration. It was just another Friday night when a group of friends, Alex, Sam, Jamie, and Emma, gathered at Alex's place. They'd been talking about doing something a little different than their usual gaming sessions. They were tired of the same old online horror games and had been browsing the internet for something new. That's when Jamie brought up the story of an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. The house had been emptying for years, and rumors about it had circulated for decades. Some said it was haunted, others claimed it was cursed, but no one had ever dared to go inside. It wasn't the first time they'd heard about it, but tonight, the curiosity got the better of them. "Let's go check it out," Jamie suggested, excitement in their voice. "It's just an old house. What's the worst that could happen?" The others hesitated for a moment, but after a bit of convincing, they agreed. They grabbed flashlights, cameras, and some snacks, ready for a little adventure. The house wasn't far away, just a short drive outside town, near the edge of a dense forest. When they arrived, the house loomed in front of them. It was even creepier than they had imagined. Its windows were boarded up, and ivy crawled up the walls like twisted fingers. The front door was cracked open, creaking in the wind. It was clear that no one had lived here for a long time. "All right, let's just do a quick walkthrough and take some pictures," Alex said, trying to sound brave, though they were all nervous. They stepped inside, and the air immediately felt cold. The house was dark, with dust covering everything in sight. The floorboards creaked under their feet, and the smell of decay filled the air. It looked like it had been abandoned for decades, and yet something felt off, like they weren't the only ones there. They explored the first few rooms, the kitchen with broken cupboards, the living room with old, tattered furniture, and a hallway that led to what looked like the basement. But as they moved deeper into the house, the atmosphere began to shift. Every time they turned a corner, the air felt thicker, heavier, and there were whispers. Faint, almost imperceptible at first, like the wind. But the more they listened, the more they realized it wasn't the wind at all. "Did you hear that?" Emma asked, her voice trembling. "I thought it was just the house settling," Sam replied, though his eyes darted nervously around the room. They kept moving, trying to brush it off as just their imaginations running wild. But then something strange happened. As they entered the old living room, the door slammed shut behind them. The noise echoed through the empty house, sending a chill down their spines. Who closed the door?" Jamie asked, their voice shaky. No one had been near it. In fact, they all had been standing a few feet away from it. The room fell silent, the only sound being their heavy breathing. Then the whispers started again, louder this time. They couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like a low murmur, as if something or someone was speaking just beyond their reach. "We need to get out of here," Alex said, panic rising in their voice. "This is not okay." They hurried to the door, but as they grabbed the handle, it wouldn't budge. The door had somehow locked itself. "Come on, it has to open," Sam said, pulling on the handle with all their strength, but it wouldn't move. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the temperature in the room dropped. It was freezing cold now, so cold that they could see their breath in the air. Then, just as quickly, the lights went out completely, plunging them into darkness. All they had were their flashlights, but even they seemed to flicker and fade as if something was draining their power. In the distance, they heard it, a sound like footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from upstairs, one step at a time, getting closer. They couldn't see anything, but they could hear the unmistakable sound of movement. "No one else is supposed to be here," Jamie whispered, her voice barely audible. But as soon as she said it, the footsteps stopped. The house was eerily still. Then, a voice, cold and distant, whispered from behind them, "Leave. Now." They spun around, shining their flashlights in every direction, but there was nothing there. The air felt thick with tension. The whispers had grown louder now, almost as if they were circling them, getting closer and closer. "We need to go, now," Alex said, their voice breaking. They tried the door again, desperately pulling at the handle. Finally, it gave way and they rushed out into the hallway. But when they turned to run for the front door, they found that the hallway seemed longer than before. The door was further away, as if the house itself had shifted. The walls felt like they were closing in on them. In the distance, they heard the voice again. "You're not leaving." The sense of dread that only grew with every passing second. They bolted down the hall, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The house seemed to groan and creak, as if something was alive, watching them, waiting for them to make one wrong move. When they finally reached the front door, it swung open as if it had been waiting for them. They didn't hesitate. They rushed outside, gasping for air as they stood on the porch, looking back at the dark, silent house. The whispers still echoed in their minds, the cold feeling lingering on their skin. The friends didn't speak a word as they drove back to town. The house disappeared behind them, but the sense of unease didn't fade. They all agreed they'd never go near it again. The next day, Alex checked their phone, scrolling through some pictures they'd taken during the exploration. One photo in particular stood out. It was a picture of the living room, where they'd first heard the whispers. But in the corner of the photo, just barely visible in the shadow, was a figure someone standing in the dark, watching them. The image sent a chill down their spine. They looked at each other. No one had been standing there when they took the photo. And that was when they realized the house had been waiting for them all along.